It's lovely to have you for tea.
Yes, I'm looking forward to my second cup.
Ah, yes, cheers.
Cheers, cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
I finished your book,
Mm.
actually, and I'm very interested to ask you a few questions.
Oh, how exciting. I hope I can answer them.
I dipped into it more than once, I have to confess.
Oh.
I read it and then I thought, I'm not sure if I've got this.
Oh, wow.
Let's try again.
Okay.
I know a lot of it is based on real life,
Mm-hmm.
and I was trying to disentangle from what I know of you and so on, trying
Right.
to disentangle what is real and what is
Fictional.
Fictional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, fair
And
enough.
I thought you put a lot into the book because
Mm.
a lot of things that people wouldn't put, like sex,
Mm-hmm.
menopause, the true story of how menopause can mess up your life,
Yeah.
lovers, tension between life of a married person, Isabelle, the
Mm-hmm.
main character, her
Mhm.
married life, and should she or should she not take a lover,
Right.
and where taking a lover leads her,
Mm-hmm.
and all with that kind of melange of menopause and sexual intensity,
Yeah.
grief,
Yeah.
loss.
Mm.
There's a lot of that. You've put an awful lot into one book, where that's why I had to read it again because
Oh, I see. Okay.
yes. Well, I can't say I read it thoroughly the second time. I was
Yeah.
just dipping in just to
Yeah.
see.
Bits that you thought you might want to read.
Did
yeah.
you mean that?
Yeah.
What's in there? And
Okay.
the second time I went through it, there was a lot I spotted that I hadn't spotted the first time. So
Oh. It's like those films
Yeah.
that you watch, and then you watch
Mhm.
it again, and you think, oh, was that in the film last time? Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for the fantastic compliment. Thank you so much. Yes, I think the reason I put a lot in is because Isabelle is a complex character. Not only her, the other
Mhm.
characters in the book are all complex 3D characters, or I wanted them to be.
yes,
Whether I
yes.
succeeded or not, I don't know, but I wanted them to be. And of course there's a lot to us when we are fully
Mm.
characterized. And so yes, I mean, part of the book is fictional, and part of it, as you rightly said, is based in reality completely.
Mm.
The menopause thing, I think, is particularly important because, first of all, people don't really talk about it very much, in my experience.
No, people are quite prudish.
They
or-
are. They seem to hide it, and it's
Yeah.
very interesting. There's a program here in the UK called Loose Women. It's a daytime program, and when I'm at home and I can watch it, I do. And they were talking about how embarrassing it is, actually, some of them, that if you go through the menopause, they almost don't want to even let their husbands know.
Yeah.
Which I found really interesting, because I thought, well, why would you be embarrassed about something that is so natural? Because there's loads of information and books and things about having your period, to starting your periods. There's more than you can imagine about how to give birth or to get pregnant and
giving
fertility.
birth,
All
yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
There's hardly
after
any
birth.
after birth, how to deal with the mental issues that happens around birth,
Yes.
and after birth, and people getting really
Yes.
depressed and
Yes, and it's as if then the trail goes cold after that. And
It
it fails to
does.
be interesting.
yes,
Perhaps it's perhaps something that the male population feels that they can't share, or something like that, and it tends to go
Yeah.
underground. Though I think it's a conception. It isn't a true conception. I
No.
think there's maybe such a thing as a male menopause as well.
oh,
But
sure,
Of course.
I'm sure there is. Yeah, because it's
certainly,
hormonal.
yes,
hormonal.
or a change of life.
Exactly.
And it's how that change of life, whether that makes you a sort of secondary citizen, or whether it gives you, whether it
Yeah.
empowers you, puts you back into the driving
Yeah.
seat if you can get a handle on it.
It is true,
Um,
because I think in society we seem to have, like you said, it's dismissed, it's kind of covered over, and so there are all these misconceptions about what it is, and how empowered you are allowed to be as well, because media and everything is so focused on youth.
Yes.
And so when you come to a certain, I mean, there's even all these things about actors, you know, if you're a female actor and you come to a certain point in your life, your career stops, you know.
Become invisible.
Invisible kind of thing. And that, but I think that is not true.
Yes. There's also, I mean, from Isabelle's point of view, obviously her sex drive hasn't reduced.
Right, and that's the other thing.
Has it gone the other way, you know?
Yes,
as
because
a writer of a similar age to Isabelle, and knowing all the friends that you do who are of a similar age, would you say that it can go the other way? And in fact, there is like a more intense kind of drive to go out, find a lover, you know.
I definitely think that, and
all those sorts of, like a sort of second lease of life that can happen with the menopause.
Absolutely, because I mean, I've spoken to a lot of ladies. Isabelle is based on a lot of ladies, not just on me. She's loosely based on me, but I've spoken to a lot of ladies around this age, and what I found intriguing was this. Some of them, you are completely right, when they hit the menopause, possibly because they never had a high sex drive to begin with, or they didn't enjoy it, they look at it as an excuse to just stop.
Yes.
It's like, thank you, I've had enough.
That side of my life is dead.
It's done.
And therefore all the social things that go with that side of life are dead. So
are dead as well.
Flirtation.
Yes, all of that
going
goes.
Out with, if you're single, going out with people. And,
true, but you do get the other side. And in my experience, talking to many ladies, it seems that is the most prevalent, but it is the one that's the least talked about, which I was surprised about, because what happens is many of these women feel their children are grown up, they've moved out of the house mostly, they're no longer having their period, so they can't get pregnant, and for the first time in their lives they can just relax and enjoy their sexuality. And I wanted to show Isabelle like that. I wanted to show that just because you have the menopause, it doesn't mean your life is over on any level, including your sexuality. And the fact that she then meets a lover who is so much younger than her, and who is genuinely interested in her, and who genuinely falls in love with her. Also, I wanted to show through that life isn't over. It isn't over just because you hit a certain age.
Yes.
And you are now supposed to be, I don't know what.
Yes.
You know? So, no. But just to come back to this program, The Loose Women, I just want to very briefly mention this to you because I found this fascinating. They had Anita Dobson on there. She's one of the panel members. And, you know, she's married to Brian May. And he came on the program once. Probably to talk about something completely different, which I cannot now remember. But what struck me was they then talked about the menopause, and he talked about the menopause from a man's point of view. And he said that, you know, it should be talked about. It should be made more accessible to people, because men go through the menopause with women as well as perhaps their own hormonal changes. Because of course their testosterone levels change and everything. But they are going through a process with a woman who they love, but she's no longer the person they married in the beginning, because she's going through many different changes. And it can be a fantastic bond-making experience, or not.
Yes,
and
it can make or break certain relationships.
Right.
Or, as in Isabelle's case in the book, it in a way it has sort of drawn a line
under her
changes.
Marriage.
Drawn a line under the marriage. The marriage doesn't provide her with what she needs for fulfillment in her life.
Exactly, and I think for her it didn't for a long time, but she plodded on, I suppose, hoping that it would work. You know, she made marriage vows and she wanted to keep them, I guess. But then I guess for her it came to the point where she just went, do you know what? this isn't working anymore. I am going through the menopause. I feel liberated, and I'm still a sexual, attractive woman.
Yes. I mean, there is a lot of grief associated with either the loss of sexual drive or the increase of sexual drive without a partner.
That's exactly what I found. Yes.
And so I think this is why you've put that fairly explicit sexual activity into your book fairly early on in the narrative.
Yeah, because it's a highly emotive topic for people, and like you said, that around
I feel
that
like you took the cloth right off it. You know, a lot of books you can go into the things of being implied.
Yes.
But your sex is very explicit.
Well, I wanted it to be truthful. I wanted it to be as truthful as possible, and I wanted it to be something that everybody could relate to. If you read it, you could recognise it for what it is. There are actually, although the book alludes to sexual behaviour because of her gay friend and his lifestyle and stuff, there are actually only 3 sex scenes in the book. And so the first sex scene is the first time that she's with her new lover. And I found that was important to put so explicitly, because no matter what our age, when we are that much attracted and falling in love with somebody, we all behave like 17-year-olds. And so I wanted that to be truthfully like that, you know?
Yes, yes.
And then the second explicitly sexual scene, let's put it that way, is when she realizes that this could be something that could heal her from the incredible grief that she's going through as a result of having lost her best friend.
This is sort of leading me to want to ask you really whether you consider that sexuality or sexual expression is really a pivotal thing to the healing of relationships generally in life, as it seems to be in the book.
Well, I think it can be. Maybe not for everybody. Maybe not for everybody, but I think it can be, because I feel that, wow, I didn't expect this, but yeah, when you lose somebody who's very important to you,
you have to express that grief.
You have to express it, but
there are only a few ways by which you can express grief.
And it's difficult, but also you lose yourself.
Yeah.
You lose who you are, because you are a particular person with this person in your life. And when they go, there's this hole that's unfillable. But not only that, part of you has gone with them.
Yes.
And that can never come back, you know. So
and you're left on the earth in your 3-dimensional body, so to speak, trying to make sense of something that is probably, I don't know what metaphysical way to put it, but of the unknown.
Well, because it is the unknown. We don't know. I mean, there are people who believe all kinds of things. I mean, I know, you know, people believe that there is life after death. I happen to believe that, but not everybody does.
But do you think loving sexual expression, or even explicit sexual expression, is an expression of the unknown?
It is, definitely. Because it's, to me personally, and I try to imbue that for Isabelle in the book. I try to put that in for her. It is a spiritual experience. Sexual expression, for me, happens on many different levels, and it is also a spiritual expression. I should say that. So it's emotional, it's physical, obviously, and it is spiritual, and that's where I think the healing comes in. The emotional and spiritual healing can happen, and so that's what I wanted to show for Isabelle, that she could lose herself in the physical closeness with being with somebody whom she also felt something emotional for, and then it transcended something. That's when she fell in love. It transcended the physical, it transcended the emotional, and it reached that spiritual place where the healing took place, and she found herself again.
She was in love also, in all ways but sex, I suppose you could say, with James in the book.
I think very much
her
so.
gay friend.
Yeah, but I think it was a purer love because there was no sex involved.
Yes,
it was
but the feeling that is conveyed in the book is just as intense, to my mind.
Yeah, and I think
so the friendship is almost as intense as the relationship with Angelo is intense in the sexual.
Yeah.
In all of those areas, the area of desire, physical desire, I felt the same strength of emotion surrounded the parts of the book in which
James
was appearing.
But I think that can happen often, and it often does. And I don't think it happens just between a male and female person.
No.
Although James obviously is gay, so they had this, amazing relationship where they go shopping together and do all the things that you do with your fantastic gay best friend, dancing all night and doing all of those things. But I think it also can happen between same-sex friends, even if they're both straight. Do you know what I mean? So it can happen with males that bond really deeply with another male, and you see that especially in I have friends, for example, who are soldiers, and so in that context they bond forever, for life, and the relationship is incredibly intense and close. And I think that it happens with females too. You have it's I always say to people, it's actually not how long you know the person, it's the depth of the connection you make with that person. How do you connect with someone?
I suppose it's interlocked also with the experiences of the person, the people are sharing together.
Yes.
For
very
instance,
much.
In the book, James and Isabelle share a creative project.
Right.
The making of the show, their own play, which bonds them very heavily together.
Right.
Because it's a job of work, very intense work.
Yeah.
That's pulling them very together in a very strong way.
Exactly. Yeah, because they're working, as you said, they write. It's a creative. It's sort of like the creative juices are flowing. They're brainstorming. They're coming up with things. They're rehearsing shows. Rehearsing scenes. And in the book, they actually get the play to the point where they perform part of it for an agent.
Yes.
Which actually happened in real life. So, so those parts are actually based on real life. That really happened with my friend Stephen, who died, and me. And Stephen is obviously James in the book.
Stephen is James, yes.
So that really happened. And you're right, I think working that closely with someone on something that is that important to both of you, that you want to give birth to, both of you equally importantly want to do that, then that happens. It brings people together in a way that possibly nothing else can make such a close bond so quickly, I don't think. But I don't think that that's the only reason. I think there are other factors. There has to be a complete understanding behind it.
Yeah.
There has to be things in common, similar thinking about stuff, similar feelings about stuff, and then that deep bond can happen. And it certainly did that for Stephen and I. We had a very short, very intense, very close relationship.
I think it was also a very truthful relationship, very blunt.
Very blunt.
When people are not trying to be something that they're not, or when they're having to work together on something that's so multi-dimensional, they have to drop all their guises and be who they are.
Yeah, And it's
and
a gift.
get right to the core of the matter in
Yeah.
order to act, as all actors know.
Yeah. And tell the truth.
And to tell the truth.
Tell the truth. And that takes courage, and it takes guts.
It takes a lot of guts. I was just going to say it takes balls.
Yeah.
Women haven't got balls.
No. Well, you had. I didn't. But yes, it takes guts to tell the truth and to be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredibly empowering, actually, and expanding to be who you really are. But it's extremely scary because you're so vulnerable.
Oh, it's only for the brave.
Opening up yourself completely to someone else who, if you care about them,
they can kill you.
They could kill you. They hold your hand.
I was going to say the same kind of bravery and courage that's necessary for that collaboration is also necessary in a sexual relationship.
Of course.
That's going to really take off.
That matters to you. Yes.
Bear in mind that
scary.
most people would be concealing
exactly
who they genuinely are.
Yes.
For most of the time.
Yes. Because you.
Yes.
I mean, yes, that person can kill you.
Yes.
They hold your life in their hands almost, don't they, kind of thing? Because it is
so
a very
a lot of the book
thing.
seems to be centred around finding a truth.
Yes.
Finding truth.
Finding truth, and finding truth in who you really are, the bad, the good, the ugly, and finding the truth in your relationships with people that you believe and want in your life and believe are important to you. I think that's really important because, as you just said, often when people are in love or they are falling in love, they do the opposite. They hide. They hide.
Unfortunately. But there was a lot to do with the hidden in your book. For instance, when Isabelle goes to the psychic, Ariana tries to get messages from beyond the grave and does get them.
Yes.
And this is another thing where I think it's unusual because there isn't a questioning from her side. Are these real or not? These messages are real. There are a few people who are of that psychic trend in the book. Best friend of Isabelle.
Yeah, Victoria.
And there are more probably I'm not aware of at the moment. But I think that kind of questing for something else on the other side is beyond the truth of this three-dimensional world, looking for reasons for why things happen.
Definitely. But I think her initial quest to find answers about what happened was exactly that. She wanted to understand what exactly happened because she wasn't sure that she was being told the truth about what happened at the end.
Yes.
That was the first thing.
So she sort of consulted the oracles, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
But she consulted the only oracle she could.
She could.
So you had the past life person.
Yes.
You had the and you also had Ariana.
Yeah. Yes.
So,
But I think, but the other reason she was so hell-bent on finding out what happened is because she was worried, as I was, about Stephen. She was worried about James not knowing that he died. And she didn't want him to be alone and confused and in a position that he couldn't escape and was alone and panicked, and she wanted it to be okay. She wanted him to be okay, that he wasn't scared, that he wasn't panicked, that he was safe. That was the motivation, I think, the first time to go and see Ariana.
This is a common thing of people who lose somebody very dear to them, that they will seek a psychic.
To see that they're okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you were reflecting in your book what a lot of people
go through.
Definitely want to go through.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would go as far as consulting their psychic.
Yes.
And going back and seeing their psychic.
Possibly not, because me, not Isabelle, me, I did do those things, but I was very sceptical. I was very, very sceptical about it. And the only reason I did it, as I say, is because I wanted to find out if Stephen was okay, as Isabelle is trying to find out if James was okay.
Mm.
And the reason I went to the psychic lady,
Mm-hmm.
and the reason Isabelle went there, is because Stephen introduced me to her.
Oh, right, yes.
When we were working on our play, as Isabelle and James are in the book, we went to see this psychic lady as a kind of research for the play.
Mm.
Because in the play, both characters end up being ghosts at the end. So it was part of their research. And so it seemed as though he trusted that particular psychic. That's why she went back to that lady.
Oh, that's
She probably wouldn't have gone to any other
pretty
psychic.
illuminating, I think.
You think?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
I don't think she would have gone anywhere else. I wouldn't have. I went back to the same lady because of that.
Mm.
Yeah, because he took her there. He took me there.
Mm.
You know.
So, tell me about Angelo. How much of this is Angelo aware of in the story? Is he fully aware of all the different things that have happened to Isabelle? Is he keeping up to date with them?
You mean, yeah, the
The story.
backstory to Angelo. I think she probably would have told him bits of it. I don't think she would have told him everything. But in my mind, the Angelo character is, like you were earlier saying, some people are a bit more psychic than others in the book. I think Angelo is one of those rare men, perhaps, I don't know if he's rare, but for me he was, who is incredibly empathic and almost intuitive, deeply intuitive about what happens to people he cares about. And so he almost can guess her moods and her emotions. And so when she finds out that James had died and doesn't get even a hug from her husband, and as a result calls Angelo just to get some human contact, he doesn't hesitate to meet her.
Yeah. There was a real transfer of emotion at that point in the book, I think, where there's understanding of loss, which, let's face it, I think a lot of women would say their partners might not have a very
Understood,
close understanding of what to do with
It's
a person
somebody-
who's in a very distraught sense of loss.
I think that's true.
He's
And-
unusual, isn't he? He is.
Yes.
He's an ideal man in that respect.
He's the ultimate sort of hero, isn't he?
Yes,
he's
he
the
is.
sort of romantic hero
Yes.
of a book. The kind of man that you would hope would
Yes,
exist in real life.
He's the all-over healer, isn't he? He's a
He
sexual
is.
healer, an emotional healer.
And a spiritual
He has
healer
a
in the
spiritual
end.
healing
Yes, that's true.
ability
Yes.
for her as well.
And it's interesting because in my mind he's a Scorpio. And I'm not really deeply into astrology or anything, but I know that Scorpio rules transformation.
Yes.
And so that was important for me to cast someone